Welcome fellow makers and making enthusiasts to Pandora's Props. I'm Tom, and if you read the title of this video or saw the thumbnail, then you know what's coming. So here it is, my Mass Effect M-3 Predator replica in EVA foam. I was making great progress on my Axton costume for PAX when I thought to myself, you should be capitalizing on this Mass Effect Andromeda mega hype train. And this is the result so far. As you can see, it's not painted yet. This video is just about how it was constructed from floor mats, craft foam, and PVC pipe. I used mostly reference pictures of the Triforce M3 replica, but that's not 100% accurate to what's in the game, so I used some other reference materials as well. I started by printing out a picture on this long, legal size printer paper. That way I could get the whole length, 12 inches, on one sheet and not have to tape pieces together. That template was pinned down to some foam floor mats from Harbor Freight. They're not as dense as those sheets of craft foam from craft stores, but it works well for a filler because it's almost half an inch thick. The template was then traced with a big marker, and I began cutting with a retractable razor. The insides of corners and small nooks quickly became difficult, and I had to start again, this time using an X-Acto for those parts. The floor mat piece was sandwiched between layers of the denser 6mm craft foam to build width, and because it's a little nicer to work with. I had to sand off the textured surface of the mat to ensure good adhesion to the bread of my foam sandwich. All of these pieces were then stuck together with contact cement, and I did a little preliminary sanding to true up some of the edges. The next layer was built up using 2mm craft foam. I needed them to be raised from the body, but 6mm would have been too thick. I was using foam I had left over from other projects, and for this kind of work in the future, I'm not going to be using black, because black ink does not show up well on black foam, and these nice fine point Sharpies, which are paramount for little detailed bits, are trickier to find in silver. I continued to dismantle the template piece by piece and replicate those pieces in foam, test fitting as I went. The large curvy slabs on the side were done out of the 3/8 inch foam, so I had a good amount to carve into a slope. They were roughed out on the bench sander and finished with a combination of sanding sticks I made myself, nail filing boards, and just plain sandpaper. Once I had the general shape, I had to cut them into pieces to bevel the large divide running through them. I thought about using a wood burning tool, but I'm trying really hard not to buy too many tools and run out of space to put them and end up with a cluttered workspace. Once the beveling was done, the pieces were cemented back together. The grip was thickened with some 6mm foam and sculpted with a Dremel tool that's on indefinite loan from a good friend of mine. Thanks, buddy. Up until this point, I had been putting off the problem of how to make the barrels. I knew I'd be using PVC, but I didn't know how I'd be attaching them. So I glued some pieces together to try drilling into them with a paddle bit, fully expecting it to snag and tear and catch fire and explode or something. I had my camera all set up to catch the carnage on film when it all went horribly right. Holy crap, that was nice. So then it was time to start assembling all the pieces and get contact cement all over my fingers. In doing so, outlines of all the pieces were traced onto the main body so I could make sure it would all line up when complete, and started sticking. This glue pot made the process much more manageable than it would have been with the dinky cap brush that comes with the bottle. I got this design from the Evil Ted Smith channel. If you're interested in this stuff and you haven't seen any of his videos, I highly recommend checking him out after this. I'll leave a link to the glue pot video in the description below or on the screen if I can figure out how to do that. Rather than building up material on the top of the gun that would leave seams that I'd have to fill later, I decided just to sand these troughs down with a special standing stick that I made with only sandpaper on the edge. I figured that would be easier. The barrels were glued in place with some 5-minute epoxy that's just out of frame there. The trigger is 3 different pieces super glued together and then super glued to the frame of the gun. I think I should have used contact cement instead, because I'm sure someone's going to pick it up and press the trigger as hard as they can, probably snap it off. I don't know, maybe it'll hold together. We'll see. At this point, it was time to add the shallow cut surface details. Again, it was just a matter of cutting apart the template and tracing it onto the piece. These big rivet holes were done with the tip of a sanding drum on a rotary tool. This rib texture was done with strips of 2mm foam. I decided to use super glue because they were so thin, I probably would have ended up getting more cement on me than on them in the process. Once all the details were complete, it was time to heat seal the foam. This heating process closes the tiny foam cells that may have been opened during sanding and gives it a smoother finish. It also opens up the shallow cuts I made and makes the pieces look separate from each other. So that's it so far. The next steps are sealing and painting. I'm hoping to get around to that next week, and I'll have a video up soon after, so stay tuned for that. And later in the year, I'll be making another version of this in MDF or tooling foam, or a combination of the two. And if that turns out real nice, I may try pouring a silicone mold of it and pulling some resin copies. We'll see. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you really enjoyed this video, smash that subscribe button. And until next time, keep on making. That is just the worst sign off.